I'm Jared Craig with the Vet Voice. Now, on behalf of Georgia's Veterans for Trump, Veterans for America First, I'm proud to endorse retired Navy Captain Baron Reinhold, who's running for the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office. So thank you for coming on the show and speak to our audience about a little bit about your background, what you're going to do when you get into office, most importantly, where they can find out some more information on you and hopefully donate to your campaign.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity today. As you said, 35-year Navy veteran. I joined in 1985 under Reagan's 600-ship Navy. Went to the Naval Academy, ended up graduating from there, went to flight school, became a naval flight officer, and spent my early years out in the Gulf right after Gulf One, enforcing the oil embargoes, and then as Somalia got hot the first time, trying to keep the warlords out of there. I spent my aviation time mostly in the Middle East. My department I was a flight instructor after that tour. I've done several staff tours, both at carrier strike groups. I was out on the 5th Fleet staff in Bahrain. I was the deputy commander's EA at U.S. Strategic Command, so I worked for the 3-star there. And flying tours, again, department head tour was right after 9/11. So my squadron 4 deployed really for the next 20 years. We were the first squadron to leave CONUS right after 9/11, and spent all of that tour flying Operation Enduring Freedom over Afghanistan, and then the initial flights over Iraq and OIF. We also flew in support of Somalia and OEF Philippines and some other more classified detachments. So that was my department head, and my commanding officer ride was also in a special project squadron. So kind of finished up my tour in that in aviation in nuclear command and control. So my last flying tour, I was actually, if we went to nuclear war, I had a 747-200. I was in charge of one of the 3 crews, and all the ground nodes would be gone. So I literally would be briefing the president and the surviving staff on and receiving his war orders and then executing those. So it was kind of did the whole gambit of tactical and strategic flying, and staffs all over the place. My final tour before coming to Georgia was I was the director of Bupers 3 in Millington, which I had a staff there that was in charge of ensuring all officers and all enlisted, active and reserves, were manned properly across the moving 30-year period. So the entire 250,000 or so people in the Navy, I had to keep all those communities manned properly with every rank and every rating. So that was an interesting job, and my last job was here in Georgia. I ran all the Navy ROTC programs downtown. So I had Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Kennesaw State, Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark Atlanta. So I got to train the future of the Navy and Marine Corps officers as they went through college.
Well, I want to thank you for your service, because that was a lot of service. And I think you earned your retirement after so many deployments, so many different jobs, land, air, and sea. It sounds like you've got all 3 of them in your history. So what made you get out of retirement and say, I'm going to run for Gwinnett County Sheriff?
Well, that's a good question. I retired January 1st of 2020. So right after retirement, obviously the world changed and America changed. And I couldn't sit idly by. The plan was, okay, let's buy some property on a lake in Florida, build the house that the kids and the grandkids would want to come and visit, and sit back and watch the sunsets the rest of my life. But that's not what I found myself very upset about the state of the nation. A lot of problems here in Georgia, and specifically in Gwinnett, and talking to lifelong folks from Gwinnett every day that were leaving, because they said, with all the stuff going on here, we just they were rolling out. And we were taught in the military, at least my generation, don't complain about stuff unless you're prepared to fix it. So after talking to a lot of people, and that's what the what I came to decide is like, listen, I can, anybody can, run away from problems for a while, and the nation can't afford that right now. We need, the words of, Teddy Roosevelt's speech about getting back into the arena and doing everything that you can, started ringing in my brain. And as I'm a student of history, and just saw, okay, we can't retreat. The problems that we have at every level are getting worse. And if we don't have good, honest people who are willing to take those issues on and resolve them, then we're going to be in, quickly, be in a lot worse position. So I was encouraged to jump in, and I did.
Well, we have a need for law and order in this country. And I think that the timeline that you mentioned from January 2020 to now, we've seen the BLM riots, we've seen the Antifa riots, we've seen a lot of the defunding of police in cities and county sheriffs all over the place. And Georgia's not alone there, or we're not sanitized from that, even though I believe we're not as bad as, say, Michigan or New York or California, if you want to say that. Right. But law and order has been pushed aside as an inconvenience. So I applaud you on running for sheriff, having knowing how things should work. And now, when you get into office, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Well, the biggest issue, there's a lot of issues. I mean, we could talk about this all day. Our Constitution is being ignored, and that's at every level. And so whenever you don't understand the Constitution, and yet your number one duty is actually not law enforcement, it's to ensure that the Constitution is upheld and conversely not trod upon. So that has serious implications if you take that seriously. So one of my first things that I will do is ensure that all of the officers, or the deputies that work at the sheriff's office, understand not only the Constitution, but how it applies to them every day. So that if you don't understand that, then you can't do your job effectively. So that's one of the first and foremost. We have a severe problem with deputy shortage. Over the last 3 years, we've lost about half of our deputies, and that's a direct result of problems with leadership. And that's why one of the many reasons why we need leadership change. So my background, the units that I've been in charge of have all, I build teams, and I build highly effective and highly successful teams. And you do that by a lot of things, by understanding how people work, understanding what motivates them, giving them the space to do their job, supporting them, supporting their families. And so we need to reverse course. Unlike the military, who can't leave, or you get brought up on UCMJ charges, the law enforcement officers are highly sought after everywhere. There's a deficit everywhere. And so when things get to the point where they are no longer tenable, they leave.
One thing I've seen in some police forces is that there's been an overwhelming amount of focus not on the Constitution, not on the laws, not on the individual rights, but on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, wokeism, or all of the stuff that really, in my opinion, makes people less safe, makes the effectiveness of the officers less effective. So I think that it's a simple solution. Focus on the Constitution. There's a lot already there that's being ignored. Now, if someone wanted to find out some more information about your campaign, where would they go?
It's Baron, BARON, 1R, Baron for FOR, Gwinnett, GWINNETT.com. So that's the website. As far as Twitter and Facebook, it's the same thing, Baron for Gwinnett, except it's the number 4, because Twitter, you can't use that many characters. So both Facebook and Twitter are Baron for Gwinnett. My people tell me don't put out your personal cell. I listen to some advice, not all. So my cell is 402-960-6645. So if anybody wants to text or call, if I'm not in the middle of something, I'll pick it up and we'll chat. So those are the primary ways to get a hold of me. My daughter may, set up my Instagram account, so I may be some of those other forms of communication I may be into here shortly, but those are the primary ones right now. My Gmail, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. My Gmail is baron4gwinnett@gmail.com. So
I hope people are drawn to the website. I hope that they are able to find information to volunteer and also donate to your campaign. But the most important, when is your election?
So the primary is in May. It's May 21st. So you got to get out and vote for the primary, and then the generals in November. So so the big push early is the primary, again, May 21st, and then we'll go on to victory, and we'll change things around here. And the goal ultimately is to create the sheriff's office that is the model to export, and with the center of that focused on the Constitution.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for stepping up, coming off the sidelines, coming out of retirement, and fighting for what needs to be fought for. And that is at the ground level, at the local level, but with the spirit of enforcing the rights of the United States Constitution to the individual citizen and the restraint on governmental power. And we made the right decision in endorsing you. So I want all of our Gwinnett voters to get out at the primary and vote Reinhold for sheriff and show up at the general election in November.